Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Chris coming to you live from PC Studios. It is, man, can you believe it? June the 26th, 2020. Time just flies, doesn't it? So anyway, I just want to welcome you to the program today. Glad you're here. Today we have a special guest. We will be interviewing with a nurse. Again, as this week's theme has been on healing. We focused on forever healing, spiritual healing, physical healing, the healing ministry of Jesus, the Good Samaritan yesterday, and now today we will talk to Heather Hendrock. So I don't want to delay, but I have a few things I want to share with you. First of all, shares, cares, and prayers. If you have anything, please go ahead and sign in, check them in, let us know you're here. I know there's been some conversation already going on the feed and the thread, but if you have something, please take the time to share that. I'm glad you're here with us today, and I hope that everything's going well with you. So let's go ahead and get into the topic today. Today we're going to still be talking about healing, and so Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us, because it is written, "Cursed is everyone who is hung on a tree." Galatians 3:13. What I want you to say is that ultimately, to all of us out there, whoever might be watching this now or later on, ultimate healing comes through Jesus Christ alone. In fact, in this text from Galatians chapter 3, it actually is quoting or referring back to Deuteronomy chapter 21. If anyone's found guilty of any offense deserving the penalty of death, he is executed. He is to be hung by his body on a tree. So that was considered to be a disgrace. To be hung on a tree was a disgrace, and it was cursed. And so in Deuteronomy 28, God goes into all these curses. But if you do not obey the Lord your God carefully, following all his commandments and his statutes that I'm giving you today, all these curses will come and overtake you. So aren't we glad Jesus became accursed for us, that he was hung on a tree for us, to bring healing to us, to take away the curse that is worth. Now, there was a curse also from the Garden of Eden, just in fact that there was a curse that came upon all of us because of we're fallen into sin nature. But there were curses that came with disobedience, and they're not pretty if you read Deuteronomy 28. But if you go there and look at Galatians, and you see that Jesus died for our sins, that he became cursed for us because of us. Listen, because of us, because the curse was upon us, Jesus hung on a tree to be accursed. Our God is a great God. He's a healing God. So his brokenness became healing for us. He became a curse so that we could be redeemed from the law. The penalty of the law is that we're all guilty. We're all guilty. Therefore, we're all worthy of death. And so Jesus came to give us life. Isn't that a beautiful thing? So may we never take that for granted. May we always remember that. So today, as we get ready to transition now into our interview, I just want you to know Heather Hendrock, I married her and Chase together in the last wedding that I did at Broadman Baptist Church. So I was actually already pastoring here at Lexington Park Baptist Church, and it was those things we had an agreement. I had to go back and forth through the month of May, and had two weddings to do. One was the Crystal and Paul, and then we had Chase and Heather. So Heather is part of the family with Lynn and with Ashley that you saw this week. So she married Chase, which is Lynn's son. So Heather Hendrock is the daughter-in-law of Lynn that you got to meet this week. So I'm excited. They're all in the nursing industry. What an awesome occupation to talk with this topic of healing. Now, I want you to know this interview was done prior to what's going on right now. So some of the perspectives that Heather may have on COVID-19 may be a little different, but I don't think so. I think her perspective is still the same. But know that Texas is in an uprise right now, and a lot of where she works in Houston, COVID-19 cases are way up. In fact, the governor now in Texas is saying stay home again. So guys, this thing keeps going in cycles, keeps going in circles. And COVID-19, even though we're focused on all the violence and the politics and the division and the racism and all the stuff that's taken our attention right now, COVID-19 should not be forgotten. And so as this week of healing, again, I've always said, don't be a naysayer about this and don't be a doomsdayer about this. And I don't say that to divide my congregation. I know some have been offended, but listen, this is real. This is real. So let's listen to this interview. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you are blessed by it, and it will make a difference in your life. So without further ado, here is Heather Hendrock. Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Pastor Chris. I'm coming to you, and this is a word of encouragement. And the week that this will be showing will be focusing in on the healthcare industry and on Jesus being the healer and of our souls and physically of our well-being. And so during COVID-19, we've seen that nurses and doctors and the medical industry has definitely been put on the front lines for our society. And some of them have different perspectives. And I just thought I would come last night, or I interviewed two other Hendrocks, Ashley and Lynn. And here you have Heather. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Heather, and then I'll let her introduce herself, though. But it was fortunate, those of you from Lexington Park Baptist Church, that I was honored to be able to go back, as one of the last things I did at Brabant was to marry Chase and Heather. And Chase kind of grew up in his from middle school up in the church that I pastored at. And so as an honor of that, I got to meet this lovely lady. So Heather, why don't you tell us about yourself and your family and kind of what you do down in Texas?
Good morning. So my husband and I moved to Houston, Texas about 4.5 years ago, right after we got married. But I have actually been a pediatric ICU nurse for 6 years now. And we have a daughter and a son. We have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. So a lot of different things have come up with people asking us about children and me being a healthcare worker and COVID and just the fears and worries that can come alongside of that. But we've been here for quite some time, and I've been working in a brand new pediatric unit since about February at the University of Texas Medical Branch. And so we got to open, and then COVID hit about 2 weeks later.
Wow. So why don't you just walk us through then how you brought up something I wasn't going to ask you, but what would you tell parents out there, with this COVID-19 thing? There's so much going on. Like, obviously governors are making decisions, but, do I send my kid back to school? Okay, they're making them wear a mask at daycare. And what is your experience? What are you seeing with kids and COVID-19? Not details like in the pediatric, but just, what overall, what have you been telling people when they ask you questions like that?
Honestly, what I've been doing with my kids, I have not changed anything except for the fact when we go out, if we are asked to wear masks when we go into a store or facility, we comply with that, just to honor the other people around us. But whenever we go to the grocery store, if it's not required, we'll just put some Purell on our hands. We'll go in the store like normal, and we'll do our shopping and leave. I work with a lot of really smart physicians that have been doing this for a while, and they said, honestly, the best thing for kids is to touch the shopping cart and put their hands in their mouth, because it actually boosts their immunity for later on, and it can actually help fight different types of leukemias and blood disorders and things like that, and help, honestly, later on in life for them as they build their passive immunity. So I would say we weren't fearful the entire time, and my best advice for parents would just be continue what's normal for you, and don't be afraid. Kids are going to get sick, they're going to get germs, but honestly, kids are doing so much better than adults are in this season with this virus.
Yeah, it's kind of, I've talked to other in the healthcare industry. It's like there's no rhyme or reason why some people get hit harder than others. I mean, we know the elderly are more vulnerable, and some people with certain health conditions, but like some people are asymptomatic, some people get it bad. Some people, I know a handful of people, one did die, one was in the hospital for 3 months, and then the other two, it was like stay at home for 3 weeks. I mean, it kicked their butts, but they got through it. So, and then there's another lady right now in my congregation, is his mother. She's in her 80s, and she seems like she's going to survive, but it was really hard on her. So, there's all these things, but you're right. You don't hear of many children. I know children have gotten it, some children have died, but it's rarer than the other ones. Is that what you've seen down there in Texas too?
Yes, it's extremely rare to see a child come in with it. If they do test positive, they can manage symptoms at home. It's just a really yucky virus for about 3 weeks for them. So I think a lot of the fear comes from the fact that it's a virus that we gave a name to. And now we're identifying it as something. It's not just, oh, I feel terrible for about 2 weeks, but we're giving it this name, and everyone's showing symptoms and signs of having this virus. And some people, it'll take them into the hospital. But I really think the fear ignited whenever we named this virus, and then we called it a pandemic when so many people were coming back positive for it.
Gotcha. So, and tell us about, because your background is in pediatric ICU. So, but you had and this would be a privilege. I mean, an honor to be on the front lines of this thing. You got also trained, you told me, to go into the adult side of this. Can you tell us a little bit about what you saw there and, what that was like?
Yeah. Whenever I went to the adult COVID unit, the minute you walked in, they had some empty rooms that were set up in preparation for emergent intubation for the adults. But I went down there, it was very clean. Everyone had, the PPE that they needed to do their care throughout the day. And I spoke with a couple of the nurses about it, and I asked, how they were doing emotionally and physically, working in that environment on a daily basis. And they honestly said they felt safer there than in the ER or anywhere else, because they knew that these patients were positive and they knew how to protect themselves before they walked into their shift.
Good.
So
That's pretty awesome. So, and you didn't get overwhelmed. Like, I know that the hospital, everybody was preparing for what happened, like in New York.
Right. Yeah,
So
no, we
didn't
did not
happen
feel
in Houston.
overwhelmed.
Yeah.
No, it didn't. I think because our governor started really making strict protocols in place, and they shut things down in a proper amount of time, and the people responded pretty well to it. So I think that that's why we didn't see a huge surge.
So to see, right, because I mean, this thing is real. I mean, it's a real virus that affects
Right.
us. So do you think, I mean, I'm asking you to go into an opinion here, so you don't have to give it if you don't want to. But so I know that I live in Maryland, and I think that I've supported Governor Hogan, and he kind of did what you're describing. And I think, even though obviously our economy and all that stuff's been affected by this, I think the decisions that were made did reduce this. Do you think the same thing? Do you think that you just kind of said what the governor did might have kept from a surge? Do you think that was at least smart to do that flatten the curve type of thing that they were talking about?
Yeah, so from a healthcare standpoint, I think it was wise for them to do that, in the sense that it didn't overwhelm workers, and we didn't see that that surge and then become understaffed and under-equipped.
Yeah.
But then the economy is a whole other issue, and people with small businesses, things like that, because Chase and I have seen some people that aren't reopening their small business from COVID and shutting down for so long. But I really think overall it did help flatten the curve, because people were being smart about everything, going to the grocery store, going to get gas, things like that. And people weren't socializing, in restaurants and swimming pools and things like that.
Yeah. So let's shift now to the spiritual side. I as a nurse, and I know you're a believer, you're a follower of Christ, and so as a nurse, you're a servant, you're hands on, you get to do. In generations past, like with Martin Luther and the bubonic plague, they didn't know about germs. And the church, it's the church that was going out acting like the nurse, even though they weren't the nurse. They were helping each other that were sick. So, and today the church kind of was not able to do any of that, because we have, thank God, people like you that are nurses and doctors that are on the front lines. So how was it for you? Like, did you even connect that spiritually, that, you're serving society in a way like Jesus did, touching lepers or healing the woman with the blood issue? I mean, I know it's not the same thing like Jesus going and like, hey, you're healed, but you're part of that healing ministry. Did you even process that or think about that, or has it just been so fast that you've not really had time to meditate on that?
I actually did. Chase, my husband, and I would have a lot of conversations about COVID and me working and having kids and a family, and just the fear and anxiety that would try to kind of rise up at different occasions, especially when it was all new and everyone was bunkering down at the hospital. But I would always pray before I went into my shift, and just pray that, whatever I encountered, that, God would just be with me and go with me. But to back up a little bit, I went into nursing to help people, to serve people, to heal people, and to tie that with like my spiritual walk. I think I feel more blessed to be able to be that person that goes through that doorway, because I know what kind of care I provide. And I know that if my child, my spouse, or my family member was lying in that hospital bed, I would be able to take care of that person, because you can pray with them, you can talk with them. There's a lot of ministry opportunity to do at the bedside, and it's more of a blessing than a curse to be in that position, especially in a time right now.
Yeah. And so I want to personally thank you. I mean, that this whole week is going to be kind of recognizing, Jesus is our wounded healer. He bore his stripes, have healed us spiritually. And so this whole week, as we talk about this, we're just recognizing the gift that you have, and thank you for what you do. And you may not hear that all the time. I know sometimes you probably get, and you don't need to say anything, difficult patients. Although if you're dealing with kids, they don't talk back. But you're dealing with families and situations that are very complicated. And you're right, you get to minister to the family. And that's what Lynn and Ashley said yesterday too, is especially Ashley, she's like, I'm ministering more to the families than to the patients sometimes, because, they're calling me, hey, what's going on with my loved one? Because they can't come in. And so this actually has opened doors possibly. I know the same was true for my friend up in New Jersey, Mike Fay. His dad got it, and every day they had to depend upon that nurse to call them, to tell them what was going on with their dad, because they couldn't go see him for 3 months.
Yeah, it's been really hard, but I agree with Ashley. You spend more time ministering to the family unit than anyone else, because they have a sense of loss of control and just vulnerability. So it's a very good opportunity to slide in and bridge the gap.
Yeah. So I know you can't predict this, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. So obviously we're still in the midst of this. It's not gone away, but we're all, I mean, pretty much every state now is moving back, and, Maryland, when we're in what's called phase 2, and every church is making different decisions. So like my church, we followed phases. So we created our own phases. So we're in phase 2, and we're doing outdoor worship instead of indoor worship right now. Not because we couldn't go in, we could, but we thought the experience would be better outside because there's not as many restrictions, that are clean and all that stuff. So that was just an internal decision. Some churches have gone back, but everything's limited. I'm assuming Texas probably still has some limitations too. I'm not sure, they may not. But, we're still wearing masks around here. So as we move forward, I mean, this thing's not gone away. So is this, what are you hearing? Or if you are hearing anything, this is just your opinion again, or based on your experience and what you know, what do you think is going to happen? Like, is this going to kick back up, or do you think we're kind of over that and hopefully now it's just going to kind of level out? What do you think?
So I actually talked to a couple of our providers about this last week, and they're honestly thinking that we're probably going to have a second and third phase of this, possibly in the fall, winter.
Well, let me stop you for a minute. Everybody watching, that is not to be fear. We need to live life. So you've heard Heather say this. Fear not. We're not to fear. God's got this. We just need to be wise as serpents and cautious and harmless as doves. But so I just want to throw that out. If you're watching that, don't get fear factor in you just by what she said. Okay, Heather, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely don't be afraid. It's going to come around again, just like the flu does, RSV, all of those other icky viruses that come in the winter and fall. But until there's about 2 or 3 phases, that's what's going to create the antibodies and the herd immunity until they can find a successful vaccine for those that are high risk or would like it. But yeah, they're anticipating that we'll probably have a couple more phases, but that's just, it's the normal course of a virus. I can't stress it enough. Don't be afraid. Don't isolate yourself where you're miserable. Live life and just be smart about where you go, and just how you just be vigilant about washing your hands, and you'll be okay.
Yep. Well, listen, I want to thank you for sharing all this and spending some time with me. I want you to make sure you tell Chase I said hello. And I do understand he's got like the Does he have like the Duck Dynasty look going?
Oh, he's got a full beard. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Hey, so wait a minute. One of the Duck Dynasty guys just shaved his head. He's not done that, right?
No, not yet, but he might have to.
Uh-oh. Oh no. So well, listen, it was great to see you and great to hear your perspective of things. So family God, you can go ahead and down in the thread. Make sure you send a thank you. Say thank you, Heather, for doing this interview. And Heather, you can say your final goodbye here. Anything you want to, last parting words you want to share with us?
Not really. Just continue pressing on. And this is a good opportunity to really invest in your prayer life. If you find that you're overwhelmed with fear and anxiety in this time, just, build your house of prayer.
Amen. Hey, thank you again, and God bless you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Heather. Please make sure you send her a big thank you down there, and I'm going to forward her the link later on this weekend. So I just to recap that, just to look at that real quick, just see what she's saying. She's talking from hands-on experience, and in the midst of this, there's going to be waves that come our way. In other words, we're in this thing. So we got to learn to live life. We're looking for maybe that herd immunity or for an immunization, whatever's going to happen. Texas is on the rise now, and there's some of the southern states are on the rise. So I'm going to see this thing going like a roller coaster for us. I know there's all kinds of stuff. And you heard her say something about antibodies. So I want to talk to you because one of my friends that we prayed for at our church, she got, from our wedding party, Shawnette and I, she got COVID-19. It was more like the flu for her. But they found out one of her sons didn't have anything, but her son and her husband had the antibodies. So if we get the antibodies, we can fight this thing off. So that's as I understand it. She talked about that. So we want to build those things up, and it's going to happen eventually. There are going to be people that continue to get sick, and unfortunately there is a small percentage of those people that will die. And we've seen that. We know people. Now, I mean, literally just found out somebody else, not going to mention name on live air, but somebody else got COVID-19. It's going to happen, and so it's going to continue to creep in on us. And probably by this time, I don't hope this. I hope you don't know anybody that has it, but most likely some of you do. And most likely as this continues, more and more of us will know. So I think we're finding out this thing was real. I think we should be God is all over COVID-19, and we should be, like she's saying, building that house of prayer, building that relationship with Jesus, turning our eyes upon Jesus and look full in his wonderful face. And the things of this earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. Wow. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. That's my plea for you today. Hey, listen, had a good time with you. This is Pastor Chris. Stay safe, stay strong until next week. Oh, and wait. Next week, we're going to be focusing on freedom. And then the week after that, we're going to focus on children and youth. Looking forward to having some good time with you guys. All right, so listen, stay safe, stay strong. Pastor Chris, God bless. Until next time, we'll see you later. Don't forget this Sunday, June 28th at 6 p.m., hosted by the Churches of St. Mary's County, we will meet at Lexington Park Baptist Church for the prayer rally and walk for unity, freedom, and love. Again, make sure you show up early. We're expecting to have some crowds. We're going to practice social distancing. You can bring your chair with you. Bottle of water, highly recommended. Umbrella, hopefully to block the sun because it might be hot instead of rain. But we're going to do this thing. So come on out. Be there no later than 6 p.m. Parking may be limited. We have parking at the elementary school, library, and potentially behind the fire department if our parking lot and grass lot overflow. Hey, let's hope we have that problem. Amen. So come together for unity, freedom, and love. Let's do this as the church the right way. Prayer, rally, and walk. Hey, that's all the announcements I have. Everything else stays about the same. Let's go out and have a great day. Hey, remember, God loves you and so do I. God bless you.